He entered the room with his hard tool, and I was startled by its size. Good afternoon to everyone on Infidelity Stories channel. I asked to change my name and those of the people involved to protect their identities, I cheated on my husband with his uncle, the brother of his father. Many people will say that I am shameless and not worth anything, but each person knows their own life. My name is Rachel, I am 30 years old, and I have been married to Ryan for 10 years. We run a fishing resort in the countryside of Texas. We met when I was just 18, and shortly after, we got married, in the beginning, everything was perfect. My husband has always been a hard-working and dedicated man. He did everything to make our business grow and thrive. However, over time, things changed. What hurts me the most is that we don't have children. Ryan is infertile, and this has always been a heavy burden on our marriage. When he found out, he was devastated. Since then, he changed, became more closed off and distant, and our relationship was never the same, My husband knows that my dream was to be a mother, and now, at this age, it seems like an impossible dream. Our days became routine and dull. We wake up early, take care of the resort, and at night, we barely exchange a few words before going to sleep. I try to distract myself, but the sadness is always there, accompanying me, Running a fishing resort is not easy. It's constant and expensive work. Repairs and maintenance are always needed, from cleaning the tanks to fixing the nets and equipment. That's when we started calling Jason, Ryan's cousin, to help us. Jason makes a living doing odd jobs and has always been very handy. He knew how to fix almost anything, and his help was essential for us, It was during this time that Jack, Ryan's uncle, started appearing more frequently at the resort. Jack has always been a charming man with his easy smile and penetrating gaze. He had a commanding presence, with a captivating way that drew people in. Since I was young, I had always felt an attraction to him, but life circumstances led me to marry Ryan, Jack's presence reminded me of what it feels like to be alive, to be noticed. Being nearly 10 years older than Ryan, Jack always had an air of experience and wisdom. He was adventurous, well-traveled, and his fascinating stories always captivated everyone's attention. Beyond that, he was always attentive to me, something that never went unnoticed. I'll share a secret with you. Years ago, at a family gathering, we ended up drinking a bit too much. The night was pleasant, and in a moment of weakness, we kissed. It was an intense kiss, loaded with repressed feelings. We both knew it couldn't happen, but the chemistry between us was undeniable. After that day, we never spoke about it again and moved on with our lives. But that moment never left my mind, as time went on, I started to notice that Jack was looking at me differently too. He could see the sadness in my eyes. And somehow, he seemed to understand my pain. Every time he came to the resort, my heart would race, and I could tell that he was also affected by our proximity. Whenever I saw my husband's uncle, I was torn between two feelings, loyalty to my husband and the growing passion I felt for Jack, I can hardly believe I'm in this situation, but I know something has to change. I can't keep living like this, without love, without hope. Before continuing with this story of infidelity, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. We post videos every day, as the routine became more tiring and I felt more distant from my husband, I began to come up with a plan to make Jack come by more often. I created small problems, like a fence that needed fixing or a water pump that would mysteriously stop working, just to have an excuse to call Jack. That way, he would come by more frequently, I would take the opportunity to talk to him more and offer him coffee. These visits were a relief from my loneliness, and I started to eagerly await these moments, on one of these visits, I couldn't hold back my feelings any longer. We were alone, talking and laughing, and the tension between us was palpable. The way he looked at me, the way he spoke, all of it stirred something inside me that I had tried to ignore. Suddenly, without thinking, we moved closer and kissed. It was an intense kiss, charged with all the emotions I had been holding in. At that moment, everything seemed to fall into place, and I felt a relief and passion that I hadn't experienced in a long time, After the kiss, Jack looked at me with a mix of surprise and concern. He stepped back a little and softly asked, "Are you sure about this? Remember, I am your husband's uncle." I felt a chill run down my spine hearing those words. The weight of the situation hit me hard. I knew he was right, and what we had done was wrong and complicated, but at the same time, I was so caught up in the emotion of the moment that his words felt like a punch to the stomach. I looked at him, trying to find an answer that made sense, but the truth is, I was confused and scared. I didn't know how to move forward, Jack watched me closely, realizing how shaken I was, and he continued speaking in a calmer tone. I know about the problems you've been facing. I can see how tired and frustrated you are. Of course, this isn't easy for you, but remember that all of this is just a phase. The difficulties you're going through will pass. I don't want to be the cause of more problems in your life, he seemed sincere and concerned, trying to comfort me as I struggled to process what had just happened. Taking a deep breath, I looked at Jack, and, summoning all the courage I had, I spoke. Jack, I've always been in love with you. Since I've known you, you've been the person I've admired and desired the most. I know what we've done can't continue, and that this situation is complicated and wrong, but honestly, I couldn't keep living with these feelings bottled up inside me. I needed to free myself from this pain and this passion, even if it meant that things might not work out between us. It was better than dying with all of this hidden inside me. I needed to at least try, even knowing the consequences, the story is not over yet, please consider subscribe, Jack moved closer to me, and without saying another word, he kissed me with an intensity that reflected all the tension that had built up between us. The kiss was deep and filled with desire. In that moment, the urgency and passion overpowered everything else. Without hesitation, our bodies came together right there in the heat of the situation. We made love with an intensity that seemed to make everything else disappear. Every touch and every kiss was filled with a desperate need to feel something real and immediate, regardless of the consequences. After that intense night, I did everything I could to ensure that Jack appeared frequently. I took advantage of every opportunity to create small problems at the resort, always with the excuse that we needed his help. Each time he came, it was a relief and a chance to be together again. Our relationship intensified, and each visit became an opportunity to strengthen the bond that had begun to grow between us. We were together every day, and his presence became an essential part of my life, as the days passed, my husband started to notice changes in me. He realized that I was different, more lively, and taking better care of myself. I started dressing better, going to the salon more often, and even making small changes to my appearance. One day, while I was getting ready for work, Ryan made a joke. Looking at me with a smile, he asked if there was another man in my life. His tone was playful, but I knew he was beginning to suspect that something was going on, after my husband's joke, I decided it was best to ask Jack to take a break. I needed to keep up appearances and avoid raising more suspicions. So I talked to him and asked him to stay away for a while, explaining that I needed time to sort things out. Jack didn't take it well. He seemed hurt and thought I was discarding him. The sadness and disappointment were evident on his face. I tried to explain that it wasn't that, but the truth is, he was interpreting the situation as if he were being pushed aside, and it created a tense atmosphere between us, After that conversation, Jack started messaging me constantly. He begged me to leave Ryan, suggesting that I ask for a divorce and take over the resort for myself. His messages grew more insistent and desperate. He expressed that he was ready to support my decision and wanted to be by my side. It seemed like he was determined to do whatever it took for us to be together, In a moment of desperation, I decided to call Jack secretly. I was direct, asking him to stop this madness of insisting that I file for divorce. I explained that despite everything, I wasn't ready to make such a drastic decision. Jack reacted somewhat aggressively. He asked me to think it over, insisting that he was the man of my life and that I should take his proposal more seriously. His voice was filled with frustration and a tone of possessiveness, which only heightened the tension between us, Despite his insistence, I knew I needed to handle the situation carefully and not make any rash decisions. I was terrified of the possibility that Jack might reveal our affair to Ryan. The thought of the secret coming out and causing chaos in my life filled me with panic. I spent 2 sleepless nights, unable to sleep, worrying about the potential consequences. My mind was racing, trying to come up with a plan to get myself out of this situation, I needed to find a way to protect my marriage and prevent Jack from exposing what had happened between us. I devised a plan to solve the situation and ensure that the secret wouldn't be revealed. I called Jack to come to the resort again, claiming that there was an issue with the electrical system that I had broken on purpose. While he was busy fixing the problem, I took the opportunity to grab his phone. I was quick and silent, deleting all our messages to make sure there was no evidence that could compromise our privacy. With everything cleared and no suspicion, I began to scream and call for my husband. I did everything I could to create a scene, alerting Ryan as quickly as possible. Ryan arrived in no time, his face filled with worry and anxiety. Jack, visibly startled, stood frozen, unsure of what was happening, asking what was going on, seizing the opportunity. With tears in my eyes, I quickly lied. I cried and said that Jack had tried to attack me. My voice was trembling, and my reaction was filled with desperation to ensure that Ryan believed the story. The situation escalated rapidly when Jack, overwhelmed by anger and frustration, began to act violently. He turned on me with a fury I didn't expect, hurling insults and accusations. Jack started yelling that we were having an affair and threatened to reveal that he had proof of it. His fury grew with every word, and the situation spiraled out of control. My desperate expression and the scene I had created weren't enough to stop his outburst. His threats and accusations mixed together, making the environment even more chaotic and desperate. Ryan, seeing how serious the situation was becoming, immediately called others to help calm things down. A few people quickly gathered to contain Jack's violent outburst and to try to understand what was going on. My husband then demanded that Jack show the proof of his accusations, asking him to prove that we were having an affair. Jack, still furious, grabbed his phone and started searching for the evidence he claimed to have. However, when he looked, he realized there was no trace of our relationship left. I had already deleted all our messages and any evidence of our affair. The lack of proof left Jack even more frustrated, and the situation remained tense. I decided it was time to end things. I began to cry hysterically, begging Ryan to do something, insisting that Jack had tried to attack me. My voice was filled with panic, further escalating the situation. Jack's reaction was immediate and aggressive. He became even more enraged and tried to approach me with clear intent to hurt me. Seeing the imminent danger, Ryan didn't hesitate and lunged at Jack. Other people also stepped in to help restrain Jack and prevent him from attacking me. The fight became intense, with my husband and the others struggling to pin Jack down and stop him from harming me. The confusion and chaos took over the room as I watched, trembling with fear and trying to keep my composure. In the end, the situation became unsustainable, and we decided to call the police. We went to the station and filed a report against Jack, ensuring that he would stay away from me and the resort. The police intervention helped to resolve the situation, and the authorities took the necessary steps to keep Jack at a distance. After that, Ryan cut all ties with his uncle, and their relationship was severed. I was relieved to be free from suspicion and for managing to keep the secret hidden. The whole episode served as a harsh wake-up call for me, and I swore never to repeat my betrayal. The experience was a serious warning of how everything could have spiraled out of control, and I was grateful to have escaped without greater consequences. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment on what you thought of this story, and see you in the next one.